So I was playing through Devil May Cry 5 again for like the millionth time, and I realized just how big the variety of boss quality in this game is. You have some of the greatest bosses in the whole series, and also what I think are some of the worst. Like absolute stinkers mixed in with just complete gems. So I wanted to make a video where I rank every single boss from Devil May Cry 5 and tell you guys what I think about them. Also, I'm doing a giveaway in my Discord server. I'm picking one person and then giving them a copy of one of the Devil May Cry games, so somebody can get one of the DMC games they're missing. All you gotta do to enter is just join the Discord server and then just say that you want to win. I'll leave a link to it in the pinned comment. So at the very beginning of the game, in the prologue, we fight the first boss as Nero, and it's just Urizen sitting in his chair. Now, you're actually not supposed to win this fight. It's a scripted loss. And let me just go on a little rant real quick. I hate fights like this so bad. Fights where you aren't even actually intended to win. Dark Souls has a lot of fights like this. I remember Elden Ring has a fight in the very beginning where you just die. There's nothing you can really do, as far as I know. You're just intended to die. It's like, why not just make this a cutscene? It's not like it's really teaching me any new mechanics or something, or this fight is some kind of tutorial. This could have just been a cutscene. What the first supposed to lose boss fight of Elden Ring does way better than the Urizen prologue fight is at least that one is over quickly. And it's very clear that you're not supposed to win because the boss just does so much damage. It's ridiculous. Like, there's no way you could possibly win this. In the Urizen prologue fight, he just does a normal looking amount of damage to you, so it makes you think that you're supposed to win the fight. And then when you die and the clear mission overlay shows up, you're just confused. What's even going on? On subsequent playthroughs, it does get pretty annoying to fight this guy because he just kills you so slow, and you're supposed to lose, so you just end up standing there just waiting for him to kill you. It just sucks. I'm aware that this boss is actually beatable, and if you beat him, you unlock the higher tier of difficulty than what you're playing on. So if you beat him on Devil Hunter, for example, you'll unlock Son of Sparta and so on. But that doesn't really make the boss fight any better than me. I just have a personal pet peeve against boss fights where you're just scripted to lose. Like, what's the point of me even playing it if I can't win and it's not teaching me anything and isn't some tutorial of some kind? And I hate how slow this guy takes to kill you, and that the strat to get through this section is to just stand there and do nothing while he chips away your health bar. I'm gonna have to put this in F tier. This is just shit. I'm sorry. Just a completely pointless boss fight that doesn't even need to even be in the game. The next boss fight is in mission 1, and it's these Qliphoth roots that you basically just have to attack and just hit until they die. It's a super simple boss, and there's really not that much to it, which is a good thing because this is super early in the game and is the first proper boss fight that you encounter. The Qliphoth roots have these tentacles that fly around all over the place, and it does a good job getting across the message that dodging in this game is super important to avoid attacks. There's a really insane glitch you can do on this boss to get literally hundreds upon hundreds of millions of orbs, and I talked about it in a few videos already, so I'll just link in the description a YouTube short I made about it. But there's a glitch you can use involving Vergil's doppelganger to get hundreds of millions of red orbs. But yeah, it's an alright boss. It's nothing super complicated, which is good because it's right at the beginning of the game, but you kind of just hit this thing until it dies, and that's that. D tier. In the next mission, we get to fight our next boss, the Goliath. Before I say anything about the actual fight with this boss, I just gotta say, this is one of the coolest looking enemies in the whole game. It's like this giant bull goat guy, and he has like a stomach that opens into a mouth that shoots fireballs and fucking fire tornadoes and stuff. It's absolutely nuts. The design for this guy is just sick. Fight against Goliath is definitely one of the better fights in the game. It takes you across 3 different locations you fight him in. First on the top of this building, then you crash down through the roof inside of it, and then he breaks open the wall and then you go outside. His attacks are also really cool. He has this attack where he just charges up this giant AoE around himself, just this huge explosion, and when you step away from it and look at it, it just looks so cool. Like I mentioned earlier, he has an attack where he shoots this giant fire tornado out of his stomach at you. And what I also like about this fight is it's not super easy, but it's also not insanely difficult. I feel like the difficulty for this boss is perfect. Once you know what all of his moves are and how to dodge them, you can really fight this guy and take him out really stylishly, and it's super satisfying. The Goliath is definitely A tier, one of the better fights in this game, great character design, and a really fun fight. In mission 3, we fight the next boss, Artemis. Artemis is that gun from DMC3, but here it's used Lady's body as a host to grow grow into this giant demon monster and we have to kill it. I think this boss is alright. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not an insanely good boss either. Artemis does have a lot of really cool attacks though. I like the little laser beams that she shoots at you. It forces you to dodge and like stay on your toes. And I like how if you deal a lot of damage to Artemis in a small amount of time, she falls down to the ground for you to just wail on and just beat the shit out of. Solid boss. I feel like this one goes towards the middle in C tier. The next boss we run into is Nidhogg, and unfortunately this is a boss fight we have to do as V. You guys all know how I feel about V's gameplay. I just find it really boring. I don't like it. I suck at it. So any boss that you have to fight as V, I'm immediately just not gonna like it as much as the boss fights with the other characters. But this one specifically I just find really annoying. Nidhogg has these three like Venus flytrap tentacle looking things that come down and try to attack you, and sometimes he'll come down himself to attack you, and when he does is the only time that you can deal real damage to him. I just hate this fight because I hate playing as V. The whole fight is in this one tiny room and there's like nowhere to go. You just stand there and mash buttons and your pets just kill the boss, and it just feels like it drags on forever, and sometimes it could take a million years for Nidhogg to actually come down low enough so I can actually hit him. The fight isn't horrible. I mean, it's not absolutely terrible, but I just don't really like it very much, so I'm gonna put it in D tier. Next is our first fight against Cavaliere Angelo as the Elder Greyon Knight. This is the one where he's on the horse. Now, I gotta say, I really love this fight. This fight is absolutely amazing. The only thing about this fight that sucks is, once again, we have to fight him as V. If you're on PC and you can mod the game to be able to use whatever characters you want on any mission, this boss becomes so much better. Again, this is one of the coolest designs for a character I think I've ever seen. Like, just the fucking deep demonic knight guy with the giant sword on a horse, and the like blue flames and all like the purple energy everywhere. It's so fucking cool, man. Just the way he walks around and does like that slow walk, he just has so much swag, man. He looks so cool. And the music, oh my god, don't even get me started on the music. This is one of my favorite themes in the whole game. It just goes so hard. This whole fight is just aura. It has nothing except aura. The whole gimmick behind this guy is that he has different attacks he can use to slow down time around him, kind of like Nero's Ragtime Devil Breaker, and I just find that whole thing really cool. I know some people find it super annoying, but I think it's a really cool mechanic. The first Cavaliere Angelo fight is a solid A tier. After this, we fight another boss called Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is this giant four-legged demon machine looking thing, and dude, this fight is fucking horrible. This fight sucks. What you gotta do to beat him is hit these little nodes on his leg until they become teleport points. Then if you wire snatch them when they light up, you go up to the top on his back, and then there's this little Qliphoth root bulb thing that you just have to hit, and after a set amount of time these spikes come up from his back, and then you have to jump off of them or else you take damage. Then just repeat this over and over until he dies. It's the most boring boss fight ever. It just sucks. I'm aware this boss actually has a second phase to it. After 10 whole minutes, I'm serious, 10 whole minutes, if Gilgamesh is still alive, he'll enter a second phase where he kind of crouches down lower to the ground and then chases you around the arena. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess, but it takes literally 10 minutes to get to the second phase. Why did they make it take so long? Why did they just make him enter the second phase when his health lowers to a certain point? But yeah, this boss sucks. Definitely one of the worst bosses in this game. You just hit his legs, you grapple up onto his back, you hit him, and then the spikes come up and you jump off. Repeat it over and over, and then he dies. F tier. We have to play through a couple missions before we get to our next boss fight, but the next one is what I call Urizen standing. So we play as Nero and play through pretty much the same fight in the prologue, except this time it's beatable and you can win. And we progress to a second stage where Urizen stands up, and then it just turned into another boss fight where you're just supposed to lose. I'm aware that the boss fight is beatable and that if you win, you just beat the game right then and there and unlock the next highest difficulty than what you're playing on. But that's very difficult to do. You're not actually intended to really do that. There's just like a secret Easter egg that the developers put in there. Same criticisms as the prologue fight against Urizen. It's a fight that you can't win. What's the point? F tier. After that, we get to fight Cavaliere once again, but this time without his horse and as Dante. And dude, let me just say, this is one of the best boss fights I've ever played in any video game. I can't even think of a single thing that I don't like about this fight. It is absolutely perfect. You might disagree, but I feel like Cavaliere Angelo is a boss that was ripped right out of a Dark Souls game. Just a super tall, super big humanoid boss that swings this giant sword around for you to dodge and parry. And I love that. I love bosses like Cavaliere better in this game. I wish there were more of them. Attacking at the right time to parry Cavaliere and doing so much damage to him, it staggers him. It's just one of the most satisfying things in this whole game. He has this move where he teleports away from you and charges up this big AoE attack. Then you can just stagger him and knock him out of it, and like I said, it's super satisfying. This is also one of the flashiest looking bosses to fight. Like, if you know what you're doing, you know his whole moveset, you're just absolutely cracked at this game. You can make this boss fight look so flashy and so stylish, much more than any of the other bosses in my opinion. Like, you could just absolutely obliterate this guy and just wipe him off the face of the earth. Amazing boss, one of the best bosses in the game by far. This is an easy A tier. The next time we fight a boss is later in the game. We have to do a boss rush and beat 3 bosses back to back. Now, this sounds cool until you learn that it's as V and against reused enemies. I absolutely hate this part of the game with a passion. Let me tell you why. So you have 3 bosses you have to fight in whichever order you want. I'm just gonna call them the Phantom versions of the bosses. You have Phantom Cavaliere, Phantom Goliath, and Phantom Artemis. And before each one of their fights, you get to pick one of these pets to reclaim basically and add to your arsenal. You start with none of them. So for the first fight, whatever you do not do what I did the first time I played through this section and pick Griffin, because that just means you're going to be sitting there mashing X and sometimes holding down and letting go of X for the next 5 to 10 minutes until the boss is dead. If you accidentally pick Griffin first, just take my advice and do this. After the first fight, where you only have one of these pets, it does get a little bit better, but still, we're just fighting reused bosses, just that have smaller health bars and do less damage to be better suited for V, and I also feel like they're a lot less aggressive, but I have no way to actually prove that. It's just a feeling. The only good thing I have to say about this boss rush is when you kill Behemoth, you get a really cool finisher with Nightmare fighting him, but that's pretty much the only positive thing I have to say about these guys. F tier, F tier, and F tier. 3 reused bosses back to back that you have to fight as V. Unacceptable. For the next fight, we play as Nero and have to save V from this giant bird creature with a witch on its back named Malphas. Now, Malphas is a decent boss. He's not like the greatest boss ever or something, but he's not terrible either. One thing that people find really annoying about Malphas is that he has this enraged state he can enter where he just charges you over and over again, and you have to either dodge out of the way or use the ragtime breakage ability to slow him down. You can also stop the enraged rampage by shooting the witch on Malphas's back with a charged up shot from Blue Rose, and it'll just snap him out of it. But this attack can fuck you up pretty bad if you're not, getting out of the way, because he just charges you and he can hit you multiple times back to back. I don't really have that much to say about Malphas. I do like the Buster Arm animations when you Buster Arm her. Looks pretty cool. I'm just gonna put her C tier. The next boss we have to face is King Cerberus, who's guarding the innermost chambers of the Qliphoth. So for Dante to continue any further, he has to kill it. Now, I love this fight. It's fucking sick. You fight King Cerberus in this giant arena that gives you a lot of space to move around and dodge his attacks. And I love how the arena changes depending on what element King Cerberus is controlling. And whenever he changes between one of his 3 elements, fire, lightning, or ice, he does this giant AoE that you have to run away from him to avoid. And if you get hit by it, it does a ton of damage. I love this fight. I'm so happy they didn't make you fight him as V or something. And it's a great callback to Devil May Cry 3. I don't think it's quite on the level of both of the Cavaliere fights. He doesn't have as much swag as Cavaliere. And I like the Goliath fight a little bit better. That's just personal preference. So I'm gonna put him in B tier. After this, we finally reach Urizen just before he eats the apple and gains unimaginable power. Now, I like this fight a lot. First of all, I love the location that it takes place in, at Dante and Vergil's old house when they were kids. It's just such a beautiful looking location, especially if you go into photo mode or free cam and just look around at the environment. It's just so beautiful and peaceful looking. So for there to be this insane fight against like a demon god happening is just absolutely insane. I also like that you can throw Dr. Faust at Urizen and it puts a little hat on him. I do this every single time. But I'm not gonna lie, just like Malphas, this fight is good. It's not bad, but it's not absolutely amazing. It's not a super duper memorable fight, except for the backflips that Urizen does. Those are very memorable. But like, I get the idea. He sheds the tentacles and all the extra stuff because he doesn't need any more blood. He doesn't need any more power, but I just think he looks a lot more scary with them. I just wish instead of after eating the apple, him shedding everything, I wish he just grew and evolved into a scarier version of that. I'm gonna put him B tier. After this, V and Urizen fuse together back into Vergil, and he retreats to the top of the Qliphoth tree. And on the way there, Dante stopped by by V's pets. So I like how different this boss is than the other bosses in the game. Instead of just defeating one enemy, we have 3 different targets that we have to keep track of and take down. But besides that, I just felt like this was one of the more forgettable boss fights of the game. I guess it's cool if you hate the V sections as much as I do, so beating up V's pets can feel like you're getting some kind of revenge on him for wasting your time having to play as him. But besides that, I don't really have that much to say about this boss at all, really. This boss isn't really that good. It's kind of forgettable, but it's definitely above the ones that are in D tier and F tier. Those are the ones that are like bad. So it's right above being bad. Like, it's good. It's just there's not really anything special about it. Once we reach the top of the Qliphoth, we get to the final boss in the game, Vergil. As soon as you see Vergil reappear in the cutscene where V fuses back together with Urizen, you know you're gonna have to fight him. And this boss fight delivers. This boss fight goes so hard. My favorite part about this whole boss fight is the fact that Vergil uses all of his moves that you've done while playing as him and seen him do in the other games. He uses everything. He throws the whole book at you, and as you're fighting him, you can just point at the screen and be like, oh, he's using judgment cuts. Oh, he's using his mirage blades. Oh, dude, that's the judgment cut end. And he uses all of the different moves against you. What's a cool surprise too is, just like you, Vergil also mastered Sin Devil Trigger form. And there's a part in the fight where he goes Sin Devil Trigger and flies around the whole arena and dive bombs at you, and you have to dodge him. On top of that, just like Vergil can summon Mirage Blades, he can also summon a clone of himself in Sin Devil Trigger, just to show you how much he's mastered this form. He can make a clone of himself in Sin Devil Trigger. So it just gets super insane. He's using all these different moves against you. You're fighting him and the doppelganger at the same time, and the theme goes so fucking hard, dude. Just listen to this. Like, dude, they just cooked so hard on this song. Like, this song feels like a boss fight against Vergil. It just sounds so aggressive, bro. This fight is absolutely incredible. One of the best boss fights in video games in general. It's also pretty difficult as well. Like, if you're not paying attention, even on the easier difficulties, you will get your shit rocked. S tier. Absolutely incredible, not a single complaint. But there is one more boss we gotta talk about. If you have the DLC that lets you play as Vergil and play through Vergil's campaign, as the final boss, instead of fighting Vergil, you'll fight Dante instead. Now, before I say anything else about this boss, I just want to say that I think it's absolutely incredible that they were able to use basically every single one of Dante's moves and incorporate it into a boss fight like this and accommodate it for Vergil's moveset as well. In this fight, Dante throws the whole book at you, especially in the second phase for mission 20. He uses quadruple S to snap into and out of Sin Devil Trigger. He uses Red Hot Night on the hat and just explodes red orbs everywhere. He uses Judgment in Sin Devil Trigger. He uses all 4 of his different styles. It's just absolutely insane. Almost every single move that Dante has is in this boss fight. I'm not entirely sure if it is, but I think this has to be the boss with the most moves. So much work was put into this boss that it's just insane. And it's sick because as you're fighting Dante as Vergil, you get the feeling of like, damn, this is what it's like to fight Dante. Like, this is what Vergil went through while he was fighting him. If DMC5 ends up being the last Devil May Cry game, then I think it's so fitting that the final boss of the whole series is Dante. Like, since the very first game, we came all this way, we acquired all these new weapons, all these new skills over all the games, and at the very end of it, we get to fight the most powerful form of Dante and just see all the progression Dante has made and how powerful he's become. I personally feel like this is the best fight in Devil May Cry 5, so I'm gonna put it SSS tier. Alright guys, so that is every boss in Devil May Cry 5 ranked on a tier list. Here's the whole tier list if you want to take a look at it. Yeah, thank you guys for watching the whole video. I appreciate it a lot. Remember to join the Discord server. We're at almost 1,000 members. We like play Discord poker and like play For Honor and stuff. It's pretty fun. Subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I don't really know what else to plug. So yeah, thanks again for watching. See you guys later.